Wild horses run unbridled, oh, the spirit dies. Unbridled? What? I had no idea what the hell that meant. But I grabbed the dictionary and I was like, oh yeah, unbridled. Like I learned this new word and it was so unforced. Because listen, there are times where you listen to a song, you say, you know, why didn't you just say that? First of all, thank you for tuning into another episode of The Right Hustle. And today's topic is called Pros and Cons of Writing with Others. All right, now again, in one of my recent videos, I just discussed that this is not just about me writing songs. It's not about me just writing books. It's about the whole writing process. It's about what writers deal with, you know, and creators, if you will. I even talk about maybe making my very first Oracle deck and what that process was like, because it's also a form of my creative writing, okay? So in this video, I just want to share what my pros and cons of writing with others has always been. And by default, I kind of tend to, on my own, write. You know, I just find it easier to do. And I feel like I really, really love my own writing, but there are moments where I know that when you collaborate with other people, there is this new thing that's born. So it's like if I'm constantly, if my own ideas are the only thing circulating in my brain, there's only but so, you know what I'm saying? It's only but so far that I can go because there's nothing to bounce anything off of. So I do understand how valuable collaborations can be. So this video is going to highlight those things, but also talk about the cons of it, okay? All right, so without further ado, here we go. I've written them down just so that my brain just kind of like focuses in. All right, number one. Splits. All right, now this is pretty much when it comes to writing something like a song or writing a book, writing something where you're planning to sell it, or maybe even like publishing, or where somebody has to divide assets, if you will, or has to divide shares, if you will. And when it comes to songs, you know, there's like a split sheet when it comes to writing songs. I use it as an example. And there's like percentages, you know, and your publishing and royalties are determined by how much percent of the song. So many people just make it easy. They just say, listen, 50-50. If it's two of us, 50-50. If it's three of us, it's going to be, you know, whatever the split is for three people. My brain cells 36 and 90, 35, 30. Like, you know, whatever it is, they'll divide it equally, you know, sometimes. But there are people who you work with who will nitpick the hell out of what you actually, not only sometimes what you contributed, but also, my hat is falling off. This is it without the hat. Should I keep the hat off? Look at me. I'm gonna have to edit this part out because I get so vain sometimes. Anyway, let's put it back on. But you'll have some people who will nitpick the hell out of what a person, not only what they contributed, but also what was used that they contributed. So they'll go based on, well, this line came from so-and-so, or this line came from so. Some people do that. I don't necessarily subscribe to that because I believe sometimes everybody could have made this song work, but because we went that way, it doesn't undervalue what everybody contributed, you know, so it depends. And then some people just sit there, you know, and they don't contribute shit. So you have so many people with different ways of breaking it down. And I feel like when it comes to splits, it can be confusing sometimes because maybe you want to split it this way, but maybe the person whose contact it is or who has that opportunity for you to place this song does it this way. Right? So that's one of the cons for me, because it just gets confusing sometimes if you're not used to doing splits that certain way, you know, or maybe you like or find it much more useful to do it this way and everybody's outnumbering you, you know, so that just makes it a little uncomfortable for some people, whereas though it kind of turns their nose against getting involved in writing sessions or writing groups because they feel like I could be there for 12 hours and then you only want to give me 5%. I had all these ideas I was throwing out and I was there the same amount of time as everybody else, but you only want to give me this amount, you know, so it really depends on the people involved. And I find that for me, I like to know up front Before I sit there and give you all these ideas and be a part of this, brainstorming session, I need to know that this is a 50-50 thing. That's just the way that I found to be most successful, because people don't have to worry about that or feel bamboozled at the end of the writing session, or once they get, the breakdown in their email about how much they contributed and what it means to the final product. Okay. Number 2, another con is not feeling heard. Okay. When you're in a writing group, there's been times where literally one of the writers constantly shut down something another person said. Maybe they didn't think they got it, but yet that person is there, they're contributing, they're being a part of the session. But this one person just doesn't like their idea. They don't think that what they're saying is valuable. They don't give off the impression that that person's contribution is more important than theirs, or somebody else they might like. And sometimes people just want to be in a room, but I find that it's really toxic to be in a room where you feel like, or where it's clear to everybody that everything you're saying is kind of being, rebuffed, or not being heard, or not being valued, or not even being considered. It's happened to me before where it's just like, and I don't mind somebody, coming up with something better, but sometimes you do get that feeling and that energy that is kind of like on purpose, like that it's like a campaign to kind of like put their foot on your neck, and you just kind of like get turned off from the whole experience. So that's another thing, not feeling like what you're contributing is valued by the people that you're trying to be in this writing session with. And another con for me is stalemates. Who is the person who gets to say, okay, this is what we're going to use? Say, for instance, you have a really great melody, right? But somebody thinks, say for instance, you have a melody for the verse that somebody thinks would be great for the bridge, but you actually think it would be great for the verse, and maybe 2 of y'all think it would be great for the verse, and 2 of y'all think it would be great for the bridge. How do we decide? And how do we not feel like, do we create 2 different versions? And then who breaks the tie? You know what I'm saying? What if we are just dead set on our idea? What if they both sound equally great? Who determines? Because sometimes writing sessions go like this. It's like you don't even have a chance to breathe before people are spewing stuff out. And if you want to be involved, you got to be ready. That happens sometimes too. It's just like the environment is just so rush, get it done. 9 times out of 10, the person who has the connections, you know what I'm saying, the person who pretty much maybe put this whole thing together is the one who has the final say. And sometimes it may not necessarily be the best choice. Maybe everybody secretly knows damn well that your idea was better, but because of their relationship with this other person, it's like, well, I really don't want to say it, but... And sometimes, no, it doesn't matter. Sometimes both ideas are good, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of times there are so many personal relationships in play, politics going on, where it's not always the best idea. Sometimes it's the idea of the person who is most liked by everybody else, or who put this thing together, or who kind of like, signs my checks, that kind of like wins. Okay, so that's another thing I found, stalemates. Inspiration. I can't even begin to, stress the amount of inspiration that I got just by running an idea past a colleague or talking to somebody about something. I remember one of my songs called Poison. One of the first songs, not the first, but one of the first songs that I recorded. And the chorus was, they say he's poison, but I want him to be my boyfriend. I'm just looking for love, and his touch makes me believe I'm the one he wants. But will he take me under, and will he make me crawl? Will his poison bring me joy? Will his poison bring me joy? Can he prove everyone wrong? She said, you can. And look, people do it a lot. They will not say the name of the song consistently in the chorus. There are so many songs where they do not double back and consistently say the song title over and over again, right? There are a lot that do, because they want to establish that repetition. They want to establish, this is the catchy part. This is what's hooking you in. That's why it's called the hook. And this is what I want you to sing along and remember first. That's going to make you want to listen to the song again and again. So then now you know the whole song, right? You have some songs where it just says the chord, it just says the name of the chorus once, right? And in this song, that was the idea for me. But when she said, I think you need to double back to Poison again. I think you need to say, they say he's poison a couple times, because it's so catchy. And sometimes the chorus can get so wordy that a person loses the idea, or they lose that hook. And she was right. So her idea was to do, they say he's poison, but I want him to be my boyfriend. I'm just looking for love, and his touch makes me believe I'm the one he wants. They say he's poison, you know what I'm saying? And just kind of maybe create, play with that melody of, you know, but I want him to be, with different words. But she liked that, and it made me, at first I'm like, nah, I already recorded it, it's done, it's good. But as I thought about it later, and I started to play the idea back in my mind, I realized she was right. So I recut the song, you know what I'm saying? And I listened to it, and even though it was more, sorry guys, I am just so, sometimes I can be, not all the time, but sometimes I'm just so vain. There we go. And sometimes you have to admit, listen, if this is for the better of the project, if this actually makes your song better, don't always think about, oh God, I gotta give somebody a share of this now, I gotta split, she's gonna wanna take, because the idea is to share something and make it the best that it can be. Why am I going to make the song suffer if, listen, maybe somebody wants to buy it or actually decides to download the song because it's catchier now or better now, and you can't pretend whether or not you actually like this new version better than the old one? So listen, 100% of zero is still zero, right? But if me using your new idea is going to possibly get me some song placements or get people streaming my music, then I have a chance to make some money, and I should want to share it with you because you helped in that new creation. But again, so many of us are so caught up in our minds. I realize that inspiration wouldn't happen if I'm sitting here in my own little bubble, in my own office. This chair goes really far back. It's ridiculous. I used to think that it was something wrong with it, but I decided I'm going to keep it. But anyway, look at me. I'm like, my mind. But like, that was something that I had to really be honest with. It's like, hey, did she make the song better? Do people agree? Yes, it's catchier now. And it's clear to me that that's the title because I revert back to it and it's the catchiest part. They say he's poison, ba 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 ba. And then everything after that is stuff that's just like, you know, it's icing on the cake. But that, they say he's poison, but I want him to be my boyfriend. I'm just looking for love, you know? And it rode, and I'm like, thank you. But that can exist if you're in your own little bubble all the time, okay? Another pro of writing with others is challenging each other to bring their A game. Friendly competition can be very beneficial sometimes, you know? Just know, like, come on, like, I can write a song like that. It don't take me nothing to come up with a song, a melody, an idea, because it just happens. It's just, well, it comes out like that for me. But when I'm writing with somebody who also writes like that and who writes well and he really gives a shit about writing good songs, it's almost refreshing more than it is intimidating to me. Because I know that you going there is gonna pique, and I'm the kind of person where I like to make a person want to go and pick up a dictionary. I like to teach, you know, like, again, one of my favorite writers and singers when I was growing up was Mariah Carey, because she made me always pick up a damn dictionary. Wild horses run unbridled, oh, the spirit dies. Unbridled? What? I had no idea what the hell that meant. But I grabbed the dictionary and I was like, oh yeah, unbridled. Like I learned this new word and it was so unforced. Because listen, there are times where you listen to a song, you say, you know, why didn't you just say that? But with Mariah, she had this way of singing very angelically, and then she would come down into her into her bassy kind of voice. She'll do something like this. Well, when you walk by every night, talking sweet and looking fine. So she'll give you this strong belt, and then she'll go, talking sweet and looking fine, where it's like up and down. So you're already intrigued by her melody choices. She could put a big ass word into something like that, and because melodically it was so pretty and so effortless, you wouldn't think anything about it. You would want to hum the melody line because it's so pretty, but it wasn't work because now you wanted to know what she was saying. There's such a craft and art to that, where sometimes you'll listen to a song, or because you want to do that, you'll put a bigger word in there that just doesn't sit well. A smaller one would do better. It will resonate better. It will make more sense right away. It will be catchy in the melody line for a person to first just want to memorize the melody. Sometimes it just doesn't work. It seems like it's too hard and you're working too hard. And so that's my desire. I want to make an artist do that, but I want to do it where so it doesn't seem like I'm trying to teach you something or be more complicated. Or instead of saying old, I say senior. Just as a example. Like I want to find a way, and there's a craft to that. You know what I'm saying? So I look at the singers who are able to do that, but in a way where it feels like that's just how they talk. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to do it in a way where it feels like that's just how I talk versus me trying to sound like I'm intelligent. You know what I mean? And so when I'm working with and writing with another creative who is the same way, who challenges me, or who uses, or who's like, we're going back and forth and they say something and they leave me like, what the hell does that mean? But it's so fly because of how they did it. Oh my God, that piques my interest. So I find being challenged by somebody, not just because they want to challenge me, but actually because we like this. And I'm like, well, why don't you just say this? And they're like, well, why don't we say this? And I'm just like, damn, why don't we say that? That's how I want to be. Because then the next time we get together, I'm going to come with my P's and Q's and I want them to be like, you know what? Honestly, I don't even want to touch it. Because that's real. It's real for them to admire and admit to when something is fine the way it is. Because sometimes shit is fine the way it is. You don't always have to do everything 50-50. But you know that when you're in a room full of writers who give a shit more about the craft than they do about their ego and their 2 cents being invested in it. That's why I say, listen, if we're in this writing session together, 50-50 is always the best way for me, because it's like it takes off the table how much you have to fight for what you have, because sometimes it's great the way it is. And if we got to break this apart just because you want to be able to say, I did 50% or 48% of this, and that's my writing right there, and it kind of like diminishes the work, then are we really winning? Is this the best that it can be just because you want your name on this? Because those are the terms and conditions that I set into place. So guys, that is my pros and cons list of writing with other artists. I find that people who write together, they usually have a specific camp. They've already worked this shit out. They know how it goes. It's easier, and I find that the people who are, who have most problems are people who bounce around a lot. Because they're used to doing things a certain way. Or they just adapt to what other people are doing, but they're not really happy with the way it goes. And sometimes they're just in the room and they'll just go with the flow of where everybody else goes. They'll contribute a little bit, or sometimes not, or they just let a project maybe be mediocre because they don't want to stir the pot. And I find that that's unfortunate for the end result, because what are we doing this for? What are we really doing? So hopefully you writers out there, you writing sessions out there are more beneficial to the craft than you are thinking about how we're going to do these splits. Work it out, because if we're together and we're actually brainstorming, then we should care more about getting more work. This is another thing I say. I say this in so many of my platforms. The talented person doesn't always get the gig, What people care about as they, progress in any creative entertainment industry is how well you work with others. I've seen singers who are okay. booked more often than singers who are dynamic. Because a lot of the times the singers who are dynamic, they know how good they are. They know they have a whole lot of options. And unfortunately, they usually are the hardest to get close to because they feel like they're better than you. Not all the time. You have some really down to earth, really talented people. But a lot of the times you have people feel like they're better than you. They don't want to be close with you. They're always looking at you, critiquing you, criticizing you. And they don't realize that they're hurting themselves and their self in the long run, because people talk. We want more than anything to know that you're not going to go over our head and try to get our job. So if I know that a singer is good and can do the job, but she's also, or he or she is also great to work with, they're a team player, they don't have a problem doing backups for me and vice versa, or helping me out, and there is just this teamwork oriented demeanor that they have, I will absolutely always refer to them before I will refer to a singer that is 11 out of 10. Because I need to know that you being on my team is going to be an asset to me versus a liability. Yeah, you'll be great to harmonize with, as an amazing singer. But also, I got to kind of sleep with one eye open, wondering whether or not you're talking about me behind my back, or going to leave me earlier for a better gig or opportunity, or go behind me or go over my head. As people progress in this business, again, when you're younger, you do a lot of dumb shit. But as you progress in this business, you encounter more people who are more focused on a person's character than you are to encounter people who are more focused on a person's resume. All right. So hopefully this helped you guys. Thank you for tuning into another episode of The Right Hustle. If you have any comments, topics, ideas, follow me, like, share, subscribe, do all of that. And also don't hesitate to comment. I want to know your personal experiences as maybe being a writer, the pros and cons you might have, any thoughts you might have about, the joys or woes of collaboration. Because again, these are just my personal experiences and my opinions, and they are not universal. So until next time, guys, thanks for tuning into The Right Hustle. It's your girl, Phoenix. Know thou. Yes.